Hey y'all, it is me, Jocelyn Alyse, that mindset teacher, encouraging you to change your thoughts so that we can change the world. Listen, friend, today we are going to nerd out on the science of reading. This is something that I am so passionate about, and I feel like every parent should be empowered with the tools to teach their child how to read. So let's get into it. First of all, when we are teaching reading, we have to make sure that our instruction is three things. So one, we want to make sure it is multisensory. This is just the science of how brains work. Learning is experience, and the more experience that we give the child during the learning process, the more likely they are to retain the information. So we want them to engage in as many senses as possible as they are learning. Number two, we want this instruction to be systematic. We want to have routines in place, and we want to understand and be intentional with how we teach our children. Number three, we want our instruction to be phonics based. You guys, phonics is literally the foundation of learning how to read and really being able to understand what we read. So we need our kids to understand the marriage between phonemes, which are the letter sounds, and graphemes, which are the way in which we write the letter. So when we start to teach our children and we are sitting down with them and working with them on learning activities, we want to start with the letter sounds. Y'all, sound play is so important. And when I say sound play, I don't even mean picking up letter cards or anything like that yet. I mean like going at. What sound did you hear at the end? And allowing that child to be able to identify was at the end of the word. So literally before we even pull out any letters, because you guys, them knowing the letters, the letter names, the graphemes are so important, but the foundation of reading is going to come with them being able to manipulate the sounds. So I feel like definitely before we even introduce letters to our kids, being able to just play around with the sounds in the alphabet and in the American language is so important. But we do want them to make those connections with the letter sounds and the letter names and all of those things. So definitely getting some letter cards, you guys. You do not have to go out and purchase anything for this as well. So they do have like letter cards at Dollar Tree, Walmart, pretty much you can see them almost anywhere. But let's say you don't have those resources with you. You could literally just get some index cards, write the letter A on it, or get some copy paper and write the letters on it, or whatever you need to do. If you go to Google and you just search letter cards printable free, literally so many things will come up that you could print out just at home, don't have to go anywhere to go and get it, and you can use those with your child. Personally, I like letter cards where vowels and consonants are different. So maybe like the vowels are in red and the consonants are all in black, or something like that, so that students can start to recognize the vowels. And this will be so important as they start to decode or sound out larger words or even identifying syllables. So when we're going through those letter cards, we don't want the kid just to be saying A, B, C, D and going through them that way as they were just practicing the alphabet. But we want them to make the connection between the letter sounds and the letter name. So we can pull up a card, and when I first introduce a card, just saying like A says ah, so they're hearing it, you say it, and then they can say A says ah, And then as we go through the letter sound, pulling away those supports. So now once I've went over A with you a few times, then I'm just gonna hold the card up, and the expectation is that the child now has that ingrained in them. Another thing that you could do to make this multisensory is getting something like sand. Y'all, sand is so useful in helping students, not just to identify letter sounds, not just to identify the grapheme or the way that we write the letter, but also to work on letter formation. So when we are looking at that card, them seeing it, hearing it, saying it, and then they can go through and with their sand, they are gonna feel themselves forming that letter in the sand. So with the child, I might guide them through it the first time, or maybe we have practiced forming an A on paper, but giving them some type of guidance, and then just going through and allowing them to feel that, and allowing that texture to go ahead and send those signals to their brain, allowing them to really store in that information. Y'all, sand play is amazing. So literally going through those sounds. A says ah. A says ah. So now they're not just identifying the letter, they're not just identifying the letter sound, but they are also going through the letter formation process. So as we are going through teaching these sounds to our students and having them make those connections between the grapheme, the phoneme, and then actually forming that letter themselves, we can also think about the order or the sequence that we want to teach the letter sounds. This hits our point of being systematic, you guys. So we're being intentional. We're thinking about what it is we want to teach them and why we want to teach them in this specific order. There are so many different sequences out there. Like, you could literally Google phoneme sequence chart, and so many different things will come up. But what I like is looking at the reading recipe. Or is it? No, it's recipe for reading. Sorry, y'all. It's recipe for reading. And they have a sequence where they try to hit the letters in order of frequency based on like children's text. So the goal is literally to get them to be able to start reading these books. So when we approach it in that way, students are not just learning letters, but they're learning letters with the intention of being able to read. So here is the recipe for reading sequence chart. Y'all, I literally just Googled this. I can actually put the link to this in the description box so you guys can see exactly what that looks like. The reading recipe, I keep saying reading recipe. Recipe for reading. There we go. The recipe for reading book on Amazon is about $30. So literally, if you wanted to, you could just buy this book and go through the sequence and the order that they tell you to go through. And they have like different things that you should be doing, working on. They have specific words that you could be using as sound play and dealing with those words. So it's literally super intentional, and it gives the students like words and letters that they have already been using. So if I've only taught the child so far A, C, and T, they're gonna give me words for the student to practice that only have those letters in it. So that way the student is able to automatically start jumping into real reading experience before they have even learned all of their letter sounds. Once I have went ahead and went through that sequence, you guys, and I have given them that great foundation of phonics, what I can start to do is giving them decodable books. Decodables are so amazing. You guys, my mom, she works with my nephew a lot, and she said that he was starting to get frustrated because he knew some of his letter sounds. He was able to, sound out some words, but when they would go to read books, he would get so angry, so frustrated because he could not decode a lot of the words in the books. So I had told my mom, I suggested to her and my sister to go out and get him some decodable books. These are books. Now, usually the story isn't all that amazing because they are trying to stay in certain word families. So in this book, these are the books where we might see cat or Matt had a cat. The cat had a bat. The fat cat ran to the mat. Do you see what I'm seeing? What I'm going through here? So it's those books, like, it's not an amazing, like, super fun story, but what it does do is give the kids practice going through a text. And when I was on FaceTime with my nephew and he was reading these books to me, he was so happy and so excited. And he's like, look, I can read this book, you see? And he's just so engaged in it because that was a goal that he had set for himself, to be able to read a book. And moving through those decodables, thinking about, okay, where is my kid in the sequence of learning reading, and then giving him or her something where they can approach reading without being frustrated. And so giving them that text that is like literally on their independent level is amazing. So yeah, I hope this video helped somebody. You guys, doing these things with our children are so important. I know that they learn at school or at preschool and all of these things, but I just feel like the expectations that we put on children nowadays are so crazy. We expect them to come into school knowing some of these things, and when children don't, more than likely they end up falling behind and not being where their peers are. So these are some tools that you can use with your child. If you like this content, if you like this video, let me know. Comment down below. What are some things that you feel you need help with as you are working with your child? Let's work on these things together, and anything that you guys comment, I will try to address in future videos. I love you, and I am so glad that you are here. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.